If I wait 5 minutes, we could be an hour late. Welcome, everybody. Sorry for all this. I'm just catching my breath as I ran in the building. If we could please do the Pledge of Allegiance, calling the meeting to order at 7:40. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with
Liberty and justice.
Thank you, folks. Checking with the chair. There'll be no hearing and privilege of the floor tonight because we are virtual. However, I do ask that if you wanted to address the board to please email us and we will respond to that email and let you know that we received it. And take whatever appropriate action we need to take. Next, I'm going to turn it over to do you want to do yours or let the auditor go since?
Let the auditor go.
Yeah, we're going to move the flip-flop 4 and 5. And we're going to have an audit report.
Thank you, everybody. Good evening. I'm just here to present the 2021 audit report. I met last week with the audit committee and went through the financial statements and the audit in detail. So I'm just going to go over a few highlights tonight, but feel free to ask me any questions that you guys may have. I believe you all have received final copies of the audit report. So just for those of you that have listened to my presentation in the past, the financial statements are pretty much the same as they were last year, except for the district had to adopt one new accounting principle. And that's what I call governmental accounting standard number 84. And where we used to have trust and agency funds and scholarship funds, those funds were eliminated and they were replaced by what we call a custodial fund. It wasn't a one-for-one replacement. Items in the prior funds had to be either moved into the new fund if there was no administrative involvement over the money, or they had to be moved into a governmental fund. So that's really the only change. And I'll point that out where it is shown in the financial statements when I go over it, but that's the only difference. Everything else is pretty much status quo in terms of the financial statements. I will start off by saying, though, the audit went very well. The district's books and records are in excellent shape. We receive everything we need timely, and the audit is able to go through the full audit process efficiently. And that's really a testament to how well your business office is prepared for the audit and how well the controls are operating. So on the financial statements themselves, pages 1 and 2 are the independent auditor's report. So that's the first of our opinions in the audit. That is a clean, unmodified opinion, the highest opinion we give as a profession and what the district has received in the past. Then after that, we have on pages 3 through 13, management's discussion and analysis. That's about a 10-page snapshot of what happened at the district during the year. It allows the reader to pick up and read 10 pages rather than 73. But the one thing to keep in mind when you're looking at these 10 pages is a good chunk of it is presented on what we call the long-term method of accounting, which has all your long-term assets, all your long-term liabilities, but it's not how the district is required to operate by New York State Education or OSC. So when we look at the long-term picture, it's meaningful, it's required to be in there by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, but it's not how the district is required to operate. Then after that, we have on pages 14 and 15, those long-term statements. But then more meaningful ones and the ones that are more important to the district are on 16 and 18. And those are the balance sheets and the income statements by fund. The funds that the district has, the general fund, the school lunch fund, the special aid fund. And here in this fund is one of the new funds, the miscellaneous special revenue. And some of your scholarship funds that used to be in scholarship are now in this fund. And the reason they are here is because the scholarships are determined by employees at the district, not an outside party. So the district has administrative involvement over the money, and now we are recording these funds in this new special revenue fund. Then after the financial statements, we have the statement of fiduciary net position. That's on page 20. And that's the replacement fund, the custodial fund that used to have trust and agency and used to be the other scholarship fund, as I mentioned. Here in this fund is the remainder of the scholarship money plus extra classroom activity funds. So that's the only change this year from last year. Then after the financial statements themselves, we have the footnotes. Footnotes go from pages 21 to 50. It gives more information on the district, what your accounting policies are. It talks about what the funds that you have are and how they are operated, the reserve funds that you have and how they can be used. And then it provides more detail on the long-term numbers, the long-term fixed assets, the long-term liabilities of the district. Then after those footnotes, we have some required supplemental information that's required to be in there by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, and then some supplementary information that state ed requires to be in there. And those have not changed from the prior years. So then after that, we have the second opinion. So we have our federal audit. District spends more than $750,000 of federal money. So we do a compliance audit with the grants. So the first opinion we issue here is our report on internal controls over compliance and reporting. We had no significant deficiencies, no material weakness. So it's a clean, unmodified opinion as well in the second opinion. Then right after that is our opinion on the major programs. So this year we looked at the school lunch program because it was free meals for all students during 2021. The school lunch program was significantly larger in terms of its federal reimbursement. So this is the program that we audited this year. And again, we had no significant deficiencies, no material weaknesses. So it's a clean, unmodified opinion. And then the details of your federal monies that you do spend are on page 65. And then after that, the last part of the audit is the audit of the extra classroom activity funds. These do require a separate audit. The State Education Department requires this. It's on a cash basis. And here detailed on pages 71 and 72 are all the clubs that you guys have at the districts, middle school and high school, and the activity. Now, the one thing this year, the activity obviously was less due to less fundraising that happened. But overall, that's the financial statements in a brief nutshell. Is there any questions or any areas that anybody would like to talk to specifically, or any members of the audit committee that heard the long presentation that they'd like to discuss?
I'm going to ask for an accept the audit report. Can I get a motion, and then we'll open it up for questions?
Auditor's report for 2021, financial report, single audit supplementary financial report, and the extra classroom activity fund financial report submitted by Weston Company CPAs.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Rick. I just want to say thank you to you, but also to thank Drew and his staff for doing such a great job with this. But let's open it up for questions, or if there are no questions.
No, I mean, we went over this a lot the other day during the audit committee meeting, but I think Drew and his team did a great job on this.
Thanks, Dan.
If anybody does have any questions after the fact, when they look at the report, Drew and Susan have my contact information, and I'm more than happy to go over any questions you may have.
Thank you, Amy.
Appreciate the hard work, Amy. Thank you.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 One more.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Opposed? Abstain? So moved. Next are our superintendent's comments. I just want to mention to the board that we will move our exec session to after this call. So with that, I'll bring superintendent.
All right, folks, so there are a couple of things that I want to just bring to folks' attention. I first want to commend Clara Basellian and Tanya Colleton over in transportation and their team. We were very close on Friday to thinking we were going to be down so many drivers that we would not be able to run two buses at all. And Clara and Tanya put their heads together, worked very diligently, and in the end, were able to transport all of our students who received transportation to and from school safely on Friday and in a timely fashion. And as that continues to be problematic, not just in Scotia, but across the nation, the shortage of bus drivers, I want to recognize the extra effort that they're putting into that. The second thing that I'd like to talk a bit about is Mr. Frederick's request that the board talk about the potential to have a student as a member of the school board. And let you know that I'm gathering information from our attorneys, Skirvin and Ferlazzo, about that individual's role. It's limited. I also know Dave is gathering some information, and that will be an agenda item when we see you on the 25th. And finally, I'd like to talk a bit about the SRO. As the board is aware, our original letter of intent is with the town of Glenville. And the town of Glenville's intent is to provide an officer who would be available to be in any of our schools. That said, I would think logically that person will be spending the majority of their time at the middle school and high school. Since we've had that discussion, both Chief Janik and I have Chief had a conversation with Chief Harrigan. Chief Harrigan and I are going to meet this week and have coffee and talk about how we might be able to work something with the village also around our 2 village schools. It was certainly never anyone's intent to exclude anyone. And we are very fortunate. This has been a topic that's come up several years during budget, with the majority of the board being interested in an SRO position. So when we had the opportunity to move forward based on grant money, we took that opportunity. That said, I am going to ask Dave to allow me to put this as a topic for discussion on the agenda on the 25th, so that we can make sure it is in fact the board's desire or intention to have an SRO in the school district. So we will be bringing both of those topics to you on the 25th. And that's it for me today, Dave.
Next on our agenda is the communication.
I'll move communications A through E, staffing 1 through 8, and the placement of children with disabilities as submitted.
She's back. Thank you, Pam.
I'll
Can I get a
second.
second? Thank you, Kim. Any questions on any of these?
Dave, for understaffing number 1, what were the additional hours over the summer for, if you don't mind me asking?
Number 1, Rick, okay.
Jamie?
Jamie in 5 days.
Yes, thank you. Hi, Rick. The AD position is not a 12-month position. And what we have found is that, especially with the kickoff of fall sports in August, that Jamie needs additional days to get that done and make sure that we're ready to open with everyone having met the requirements, whatever they might be in a given year, since this year, again, was a little different. But to make sure that we have the support we need to get started in mid-August with students.
Okay, yeah, that definitely makes sense. Thanks. The other, Dave, if I may, the other comment was on staffing number 7. I just wanted to thank Lindsay Danielson for taking the DOS coordinator position at SAC. It's truly appreciated. I know that was something that the board was very interested in, having those coordinators. So just special thank you from me. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm glad Susan let us know last week that she had taken it, and glad to see that we are adding her to the team this week. Thanks, Rick. Any other questions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? So moved. Next is other business. Is there any other business? Okay. with that-
So how has the return to school been? And generally, can we talk about that just for a moment, since we've had a couple couple weeks back now, month.
Absolutely. So at this point, we have had some cases of COVID at the elementary schools. We are posting our daily incidents of positive confirmed cases, and I want to be very clear about that. We consider a confirmed case when we have heard from DOH or the Public Health Service, not for our students because they live here, but for a staff member perhaps who doesn't live here. When we hear through their health service or their health service contacts Schenectady, which contacts us. So sometimes I will hear folks saying, I know there were confirmed cases and they're not being reflected on the district's website. But I would tell you that someone telling us, especially when it comes to quarantine, you know, schools cannot quarantine people. The only people who can quarantine people is the Department of Health. So until we have confirmation through the Department of Health, we generally don't count a positive case. This state website, the COVID dashboard for schools, is up and running, so folks can see what we're submitting on a daily basis. And I would say that compared to perhaps some of our neighbors, I think we have done a fine job with mitigation and with keeping people healthy, and with trying to make sure that we're following all of the recommendations that we can: masking, hand washing, hand sanitizers, cleaning, disinfecting, to keep everyone as safe as possible. The same is true on our buses. And again, knowing they've been a bit shorthanded, you've seen that we've approved additional cleaners and transportation to do the buses in particular. But all in all, when I drive by the schools and I see the kids out on the playground and they have their masks off and they're outside breathing that fresh air and having a good time. Certainly at the pep rally that was Friday on our turf field for homecoming, it is great to have our students and staff back. Rick, do you have any other specific questions I could answer?
Oh, that was definitely COVID centric. I was just talking generally. I'm glad to get that report, but generally, how's the return to school been? Atmosphere, kids being back full time, all the time, every day.
I think for some of our youngest, well, I shouldn't even say for some of our youngest learners. For some of our learners, it has been a bit of an adjustment. Everything from getting up in the morning, getting on the bus and getting here, to having such a structured day. By and large, though, we are seeing youngsters who are happy to be back, who are happy to see their friends. I've hosted 3 superintendents hearings, which is not outrageous for this time of year. So in terms of more substantial discipline at secondary, I'm not seeing more than typical. We certainly have students who have availed themselves of our social emotional supports. Saratoga Center for the Family has begun seeing students. Most of them are carryovers from this past year. Academically, things are moving forward. We are working very diligently on our DSIP. You'll probably remember Karen presenting that, a brief overview of the district's comprehensive plan, because we're a targeted district under ESSA. So all of the things that are part of that plan, everything from improving our own skills as administrators and for teacher observation and staff observation to give meaningful feedback, to our work on diversity, equity, and inclusion, to our review of curriculum materials. We are moving forward on all of those things. The buildings are busy. I love going in the schools and walking around and seeing students. actively engaged in learning. So it has been a very, very good start, very positive.
Glad to hear that. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I think anecdotally, we've all kind of seen at sporting events or other things. Rick, I know I saw you, so much excitement by the kids just being together again, but also from parents being at games. And I know I got to get to a couple of the soccer games, to a football game, and plan to go to many more of the events. But even our youth sports, I've noticed the kids much more energized this year and excited, and but also just the parents being out there. I was in Niskuna to see our team play this past weekend. Saw some of you there, and it was great to see the entire field just about surrounded with parents, friends, kids' friends, relatives, just watching a sporting event outside. It was great. It was a lot of fun. Any other new business? If not, I will ask for a motion to move to exec for discussions of negotiations and potentially personnel.
I will motion to move to exec for a discussion of negotiation and personnel. Is that it?
Thank you. Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you.
So Dave, I'm going to stop the recording